All right, first thing is we still had a mistake in what we mentioned about the uh, going to the doctor. So now we're going to read it again, insha'Allah ta'ala. So we have 12 cases here. Mistake in the English. We'll just read the English. So in seeking treatment, with no doubt, if the husband is able to treat her, he takes precedence overall. Firstly, the Muslim woman looks for a female Muslim doctor. If she does not find one, she looks for a Muslim boy not on the verge of puberty. غير مراهق. If not, then a non-Muslim not on the verge of puberty. غير مراهق. كافر غير مراهق. Then a Muslim on the verge of puberty. Then a disbeliever on the verge of puberty. What does on the verge of puberty means? Means can become pubescent at any time. Yani any day now. If not, then a non-marriageable pubescent Muslim. Non-marriageable, mahram. If not, then a non-marriageable pubescent non-Muslim, a mahram. So Muslim mahram, then kafir mahram. After that, a Muslim whose penis and testicles are cut off or missing. Then a female non-Muslim. Look how far down the kafirah was on the list. Remember also that the Muslim woman does not uncover in front of the kafirah, talking outside of a doctor, does not uncover in front of the kafirah more than what she would uncover while working in her house. Then a pubescent non-Muslim without penis or testicles. Then the pubescent marriageable Muslim. Then the pubescent marriageable non-Muslim. This is about seeing. There's still two other cases. One is the case of privacy, and one is the case of touching. Privacy, there's no privacy. Yani, you know the rules of privacy. They don't change here. Just summarizing so we can get to where we left off. And what about touching? If he needs to touch her without a barrier to treat her, he does so. Yani, if it's conceived, so I'm not a doctor, I don't know how to tell you. But this is what we have. If that were the case, then he may do so. Yes. Any question? So if you have the notes from the last time we went over that, fix it. Barakallahu fikum. If you shared that with someone, then tell them. Someone brought that to my attention, subhanallah. طيب.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm sorry, I was busy. But Sheikh Ra'ad, I have a question. In the case of the doctor who is Yani Mahir, where does he come in?
Mahir, yani, you can take the more proficient doctor. You don't have to turn down a more proficient doctor. You're not obligated to turn down a more proficient doctor.
Jazakumullahu khairan.
Question, was this the case where she can go to the more experienced doctor? You can always go to a more experienced doctor. Yani, not experienced, expert, expert, more proficient. Okay, so we covered the dowry, we covered the wedding banquet, we covered the equality between the wives. I mean, now we want to talk about al-khula following the text. Though, if he started with divorce before khula, because divorce section comes after khula, then that could be a straight presentation because, according to a saying, and it's the strong saying, the khula is a divorce. So then you should mention what's broader first. If khula is a divorce, then it's a specialized one. But this text has khula first and divorce after that. I don't know if any versions of or copies of the text of Abi Shuja have these in another order. Because that exists in some of the different copies of Abu Shuja, that some of the chapters are in just a little bit different order. So I'll read it as the author has presented it. And he said, Fasl, section, والخلع جائز على عوض معلوم. Khula is permissible for a known compensation. Al-khula, it has the meaning of withdrawing, taking off, like you uh, take off your clothing, take off your shirt, for example. So I don't know a close translation for khula, but what it is though is a ransom, which is that the woman is paying to be released. But the word khula doesn't mean ransom in the language. He said, "Jaizun ala iwadin ma'lum." It's permissible for a known compensation, which is the payment coming from the woman's side. He doesn't have to agree. وَتَمْلِكُ بِهِ الْمَرْأَةُ نَفْسَهَا. Because of it, or by it, the woman has control of her own situation. Or more literally, she owns herself. You can't really own yourself. Yani, she gets out of the marriage contract. And she will start her iddah. Yani, if it was consummated, she's going to start her iddah. And he cannot take her back, as the author is going to say. وَلَا رَجَعَةَ لَهُ عَلَيْهَا. So before that, what's this compensation here? Known compensation. Some money, whatever they agree on. It could also be due later. Yani, a debt. A little bit or a lot. It's not a condition that it would be the dowry. And the hadith about that, which was the first khula in the nation of Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in which the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam ordered the woman to return Yani, he asked her if she's willing to return the garden that was given to her as a dowry. And she said she was willing. And so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he ordered the man to divorce her for this. And that was the first khula. As I know the hadith, it's called the divorce in the hadith. Some say it's not a divorce though. I used to not understand what that meant. So I asked Sheikh Samir and I said to him, so some scholars said khula is not a divorce. He said yes. I said to him, how's that? Yani, what does it mean? How's not a divorce? So he said to me, it's a breach of the marriage contract. Just like apostasy is a breach of the marriage contract without being a divorce. So then I understood. So there's two sayings. One saying is that khula is a divorce, a specialized one. And the other saying is that it's not a divorce, but it is a breach of the marriage contract. And there is a point to this difference. Because according to that, if you count it as a divorce, then it's going to be counted like he spent one of his three divorces. And he did. If the man who has three divorces, if each one of those divorces was a coin, then khula is one of those coins. True. He can't bring her back. But if he were to marry her again, they would remarry under the number of remaining divorces. So that's what would be the case if you count khula as a divorce. If you don't count it as a divorce, then it won't spend any of his three divorces. ولا رجعة له عليها إلا بنكاح جديد. So the way it's translated here is she cannot be returned to the marriage except by doing a new marriage. No. SubhanAllah. It means he has no right to return to a return. Yani, or to returning her. He has no right to returning her. But by a new marriage. ولا رجعة له عليها إلا بنكاح جديد. Uh, Such a sloppy copy. Okay, that's clear. Why? Because that's the benefit of her paying. So you can't bring her back. ويجوز الخلع في الطهر وفي الحيض. Khula is permissible. Khula is permissible during purity and menses. ويجوز الخلع في الطهر والحيض. So that's also another difference between khula and uh, standard divorce. Standard divorce of a menstruating woman is only permissible during a non-menstruating time that did not have sexual intercourse. Khula is permissible at any time. There's still the question about if she needs a reason to request it. So we'll check. I don't know the answer yet. Since I was made to doubt what I thought I knew. ولا يلحق ولا يلحق المختلعة الطلاق. Uh, and a woman released by khula cannot be divorced. Slightly loose. A woman released by khula cannot be divorced. Meaning, if you divorced a woman without khula and you still had one or two divorces left and she's in her iddah, then you can use the rest of your divorces without taking her back. But in the case of khula, that doesn't work. Any question? It says, for the one who takes the saying that the khula is not a divorce but a breach of the marriage contract, does she have an iddah? Yes. If so, would her ex-husband have to support her until the iddah ends? He has to support her as a ba'in, ba alif hamza noon, ba underline apostrophe in. Ba'in, that's a woman who cannot be returned. She's not going to be returnable by khula, or if he divorced her 3 times, or by other ways a woman would be ba'in. Now, I don't know that every time she's ba'in there's support for her. I don't know that. But in this case, he supports her like a ba'in, one that can't be returned, like if he divorced her 3 times, which is lodging only. What lodging is that? Ideally, that is the house in which she was divorced, which would be usually his house. That means he needs to leave his own house. So she can spend her iddah there, and then she will leave his house and he won't be responsible for her anymore. Question, can I repeat the last part? Yes. So a man has 3 divorces. If he divorced her once, he has 2 returns. If he divorced her second time, he only has 1 return left. If he divorced her the third time, now he doesn't have any more returns. Okay, that's known. So if he divorced her once and she's in her iddah, he can return her. As long as he can return her, he can divorce her more. And he can spend the rest of his divorces on this one that's in her iddah. But not if it's a case of khula. In the case of khula, it doesn't apply.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
According to the Kula, what school is that if you want to use the Kula and you have 2 or 3 chances to get married again?
This is Shafi'i school. Both sayings I'm saying to you are Shafi'i school.
Okay. But
In the Shafi'i school, there's 2 sayings about the khula. Is it a divorce or not? So if you say it is, which is the strong saying, then it's going to count against your divorces. If you say it's not, then it's not going to count against your divorces. But it will be a breach of the marriage.
That's what got me confused. I thought it was another school saying otherwise.
This is all Shafi'i school.
Thank you.
You all. Okay. No, I didn't find out that. I was just saying I still need to ask. How would it work without being counted as a divorce? So the way it would work is if a man if a man married a woman, he has 3 divorces. If they did a khula without it being a divorce, then he didn't use any of his divorces. Then if he married her again with a new marriage contract, he'll still have 3 divorces. That's clear. Whereas if you take the saying that it is a divorce, so same scenario though, he married her, he has 3 divorces, he did khula under the saying that it is a divorce, and then he remarried her with a new marriage contract, he will have 2 divorces left. The author says, Fasl, section. وَالطَّلَاقُ ضَرْبَانِ. There are 2 types of divorce. Yani, divorce is of 2 types. صَرِيحٌ وَكِنَايَةٌ. Explicit and implicit. Or maybe kinaya means indirect. That's maybe pretty much the same thing. Or a third word for you is insinuated. Explicit divorce. What are some alternative words for explicit? Blatant, uh, straightforward, frank. So that's like if he says, you are divorced. Or he says, I divorce you. That's an explicit divorce. Both of those. Sarihun wa kinaya. Kinaya is indirect. It's a roundabout way to say it. One might say is beating around the bush, but that's what he means. Like he says, go back to your family. But he means divorce. This one has an intention, needs an intention. Or he says, peace be upon you. And he means a divorce. Or he says, we're no longer married. That's not explicit. Saying we are no longer married, that's not an explicit divorce. Can anyone tell me? Yani, I'm going to keep moving, but I'll ask for now. How could that not be an explicit divorce? What could he mean by something like that? If he said, we are no longer married, what could he mean by that other than a divorce? But I'll keep going for now. So, there are 2 types of divorce, explicit and indirect. فالصريح 3 ألفاظ. The explicit has 3 expressions. Three phrases. الطلاق والفراق والسراح. All of those here mean divorce. Talaq means divorce. Firaq means separation, which means divorce. And sarah, yani, it means divorce. Maybe it means separation. I never understood what do the kuffar understand from separation. They would be in divorce court or another court, and then one of them would be asked, are you divorced or are you married? And the answer would be, we're separated. And then the judge would say, okay, so I don't even know what this is supposed to mean. He said, does it go under a question? Yani, the answer to the question is to tell me what could such a statement mean if it's not a divorce? If it doesn't mean divorce, then what could it mean? ولا يفتقر صريح الطلاق إلى النية. Explicit divorce does not need an intention. Implicit or indirect divorce. والكناية كل لفظ احتمل الطلاق وغيره. Indirect divorce is every expression or any expression that possibly bears the meaning of divorce, as well as another meaning, yani, or something else. Any expression that possibly means divorce. Any expression that possibly means divorce. Or something else. Yani, or it could mean something else. That not divorce. Like if he said to her, we are no longer married. What could this possibly mean? Could possibly mean he's saying to her, I'm a hypocrite. I never was a Muslim, and now I'm letting you know. You were never married to me anyway. I played you the whole time. So that means it's not a divorce then. Or, yeah, and he may be saying, I committed apostasy. That's a lighter scenario. Maybe he's saying, I committed apostasy. And now I know ever since, Yani, you already finished your iddah. You've been finished your iddah since I did my apostasy. We're no longer married. We need a new marriage contract. This is not a divorce. That's how you have to see statements of blasphemy too. What could this mean? It's the same thing, really, same rule. Explicit blasphemy, uh, apparent blasphemy, explicit divorce, indirect divorce, same thing. Yani, same principle. ويفتقر إلى النية, and it needs an intention, this indirect divorce. Or like for him to say, you are not lawful for me. That's not an explicit divorce. Or like for him to say, cover yourself before me. وَلِلنِّسَاءِ فِيهِ ضَرْبَانِ. It says there are two types of women. No. Should say the women concerning it are of two types. وَلِلنِّسَاءِ فِيهِ ضَرْبَانِ. The women concerning divorce. The women concerning divorce are of two types. This pronoun here should not confuse you. Whenever you see a pronoun, if you're not sure what it refers to, trace it back. So this pronoun clearly goes back to divorce. The women concerning it are of two types. ضرب في طلاقهن سنة وبدعة. Here, A type whose divorce is, what it says right now is proper or improper. ضرب في طلاقهن سنة وبدعة. A type whose divorce is proper or improper. Now I'm not going to think too hard about this translation, and I rather would put my concentration in clarifying for you what this talk means. Sunnah, proper here means sunnah, and improper here means bid'ah. And what this means is, we can say it this way: a type whose divorce has a prophetic way. That's sunnah. That doesn't mean it's sunnah to do it. It has a prophetic way. A type whose divorce has a prophetic way. Or an improper way. Yani, uncanonical way. Uncanonical way, some of our brothers put it that way. A way that goes against canon. That's the meaning of bid'ah here. So it's not the prophetic way. It's a divorce, but it's not the prophetic way to divorce. وَهُنَّ ذَوَاتُ الْحَيْضِ. Those are the menstruating women. Or those are the women who have menstruation. That's closer. Those are the women who have menstruation. وَهُنَّ ذَوَاتُ الْحَيْضِ. So what is that prophetic way? The prophetic way to divorce the women who have menstruation is to divorce them while they are not menstruating without having sexual intercourse during this non-menstruating time. That's the prophetic way. And what is uncanonical? Not the prophetic way. What's contrary to the one I just told you, which is either going to be divorcing her while she's menstruating or divorcing her while she's not menstruating, but you had sexual intercourse with her. Those two. The inverse of the prophetic way. Prophetic way is during a non-menstruating time that did not have sexual intercourse. So the non-prophetic way is during a menstruating time or a non-menstruating time that had sexual intercourse. Either way, it's a divorce, but the uncanonical way is haram, major sin. Why? Why is haram the uncanonical divorce? Because if you divorce her while she's not menstruating, but you had sexual intercourse with her, it might turn out that she's pregnant. And had you known, you wouldn't have divorced her. And so, to stop you from this recklessness, here the religion made it forbidden for you to divorce her in this way. I'm saying recklessness because they say to protect you from the regret. To protect you from the regret that you would suffer. The religion made it forbidden for you to divorce her in this way. And as for divorcing her while she's menstruating, it is because it makes her have to wait longer to get remarried. It makes her have to wait longer to get remarried, and this is harmful to her. Why does it make it longer for her to get remarried? Because assuming that she would get remarried as soon as her iddah is over, her iddah, which I'm going to call her countdown, assuming that she would remarry as soon as her countdown is finished, then if he divorced her while she's menstruating, she has to wait for her menses to finish for her countdown to start. She has to wait for her menses to finish for her countdown to start. And therefore, he has extended her waiting time. I used to not understand this case until very, very, very recently. Very recently. Although I was saying it correctly, Alhamdulillah, Allah enabled me to say this without a mistake. But there was something I didn't understand. I'll tell you what it was. So what it was is that we are saying if he divorced her while she's menstruating, it makes her have to wait longer. Yes. So you might say, so that means it makes her iddah longer if she has to wait longer? And then the answer is no, it doesn't make her iddah longer. If somebody told you because it makes her iddah longer, then he didn't say it right. So don't say it that way. It does not make her iddah longer. So then, if it doesn't make her iddah longer, then how it makes her have to wait longer? So that didn't understand something. So now I understand though. So what does iddah mean? Well, I'm going to translate it as a countdown. So iddah, we're going to call it a countdown. So you know what a countdown is. Once countdown is over, then something's over. It's the time before she can remarry a man. Amin Wafiq. It's the time before she can remarry a man. But this countdown has a starting time. It does not start during her menses, this Shafi'i school here. What made me understand was when I was reviewing something recently and the usage of another word clarified it for me, other than iddah. It was a translation thing, I think, that was stopping me from understanding. Because we usually say iddah means waiting period. The iddah is her waiting period. Okay, so if we say the iddah is her waiting period, then at the same time we would say, if you translate what they say in Arabic, you'd say, if you divorce her during her menses, it increases her waiting time. So it makes it sound like increases her iddah. So how is increasing her waiting time and it's not increasing her iddah if her iddah is her waiting time? So that's why it was not clear for me. But when in Arabic another word was used, which is tarabbus, that always was the word that was used, but it didn't click for me. I was thinking from the translation. Tarabbus, this word is different from the word iddah. So tarabbus is waiting. That's with a sad. Tarabbus is waiting. Iddah, I'm going to call it countdown. If you divorce her while she's menstruating, you increase the time of her tarabbus. We're waiting. Because that menses is not counted as part of her countdown. Her countdown will start when the menses is over. That's Shafi'i school. You have a question here? What? Alhamdulillah. I was saying this properly, though, just without understanding something. Just saying it as I learned it. That's why you say things like you learned them. Don't say them like you understand them. Rather, understand what you learned. Understand what you learned. How long is the countdown? The countdown of a menstruating woman. That's what we're talking about here. The countdown of a menstruating woman is 3 non-bleeding intervals. 3 non-bleeding intervals. As for other types of women, there's a chapter here for iddah, so I'll save it. Amin Wafiq. He says, yeah, go ahead and ask. Oh, about another school. You can ask me, but I might know the answer and choose not to answer. You said if the wife commits apostasy, does it count as a divorce? No. That's the Shafi'i school. Only for the man? It's not clear for me. Apostasy is not a divorce. Question: if a woman wants to divorce herself from her husband, but her husband doesn't accept it, then what will be the judgment? According to the Shafi'i school, a woman cannot divorce herself. So, according to that, her husband doesn't have to accept because she can't do it. It's not possible. What is possible, though, is khula', and he doesn't have to accept. And so then your question could go another way. You said if a woman wants to divorce herself from her husband, but her husband doesn't accept, then what will be the judgment? Your question could be this. If the woman wants to get out of the marriage and her husband doesn't accept, then what's the judgment? Then he doesn't have to accept. You mentioned the following in the dealings and contracts lessons from the past. She can ask for a khula anytime because she is paying for it. Yeah, that's what someone made me doubt. So let me ask about it. In the case of divorcing while menstruating, according to the Hanafi school, I haven't learned anything. Can a woman divorce through her guardian? No, she cannot divorce. Woman cannot divorce. That's Shafi'i school. Yani, when a woman gets married, let her consider that she's stuck. Maybe she has a man who will let her go if she asks him, but maybe she doesn't. And this is why the divorce was put into the hand of the man, because he won't use it easily. That's a broad statement, of course. Yani, in comparison to the women, if it were in a woman's hand, then she will use it immediately. If it weren't in either of their hands, it means that they can't get out of the marriage. Then you're living in kafir world. That's how they are. They can't get divorced unless they go to someone. And then they have to do other things too. He said, what does it say in accordance to Shafi'i school if the woman wants to divorce a non-Muslim? I don't know. You said, in reference to this question, if the woman wants to get out of the marriage but her husband doesn't accept, you didn't understand. Yani, he doesn't have to accept, meaning he doesn't have to let her out of the marriage. It's his marriage. She's his wife now. That doesn't mean there's no way she can get out. We'll see some things. But we're talking about divorce here. She can't divorce herself. Since she can't divorce herself, then it means most likely she's not going to have a way to get out of the marriage. Yeah, she doesn't want to stay with him. So that's why what's going to happen is what you should advise her. Someone will advise her, inshallah, hopefully. And maybe Allah has mercy on her, and maybe some older people gave her some wisdom and talked to her and said to her, you be mindful before you get married, because you should consider yourself when you get married to a man. Consider that you're not going to get away from him. It's not to say she never would, but approach it from this way. Think about that before you marry him. This guy, what if I wanted to get away from this guy and he wouldn't let me? Will I marry him now? The answer is no. Don't do it. And let's say this is your case, sister. Some sister, not who's asking me. This is the case of a sister. A sister is thinking of marrying a guy. And let's say she's going to meet him. And inshallah, get married. So, what if she met him and then she had reservations right here? So she said, now that I meet this guy, it's not what I thought. But we have been so invested now. And he's here now, and I'm here now, and everyone's here now. So what you gonna do, sister? I don't know what some traditions might tell you to do. Some traditions might tell you it's too late. Khalas, you got to do the marriage contract now. If it were me, I'll tell you don't do it. Because you need to consider that you're not going to get away. So then if you approach it like that, and of course, there's a case where people change, and when you first married him, you thought he was one way. Again, I'm not talking to the person who asked, I'm just talking. You thought he was one way, but then he changed, or maybe it wasn't that he changed, but that he revealed himself to you. Subhanallah, we all have tests in this life, but this is the deal here. You can't divorce yourself. You cannot divorce yourself. So, how careful are you before you buy a house? Any person. How careful are you before you buy a car? But that doesn't mean you don't get married also, especially if that's going to be a reason for you to not do the best thing. If your option is be sinful or be miserable with some guy, if those are your options, be sinful or be miserable with some guy, but not sinful, be miserable. Ameen wa fikum. MashaAllah. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. So we're going to continue inshallah next week. Bi'ithnillah, we'll stop here. We can start the divorce section from the top. Ahlan bi sister Alima. Inshallah, you're okay. Ameen wa fikum. Question: is it allowed for the guardian of the woman to try and convince with words or violence? Well, why violence? As for words, maybe the guardian might do so. She can't do it if she doesn't have an excuse. If she doesn't have an excuse, she can't say to her husband, divorce me. And not liking him is not an excuse. That tells you the right of the husband over the wife. Not liking him is not an excuse to ask for a divorce. But maybe her guardian, her father or brother would come to him and talk to him on her behalf. Violence, though. Why violence? If the man didn't do something haram, and nothing we said so far in our lesson, nothing we said so far in our lesson means he was violating her rights or anything. So violence, there's no place here for it. Be miserable or be sinful, then be miserable. Yani, if her choice is to be married to a guy she doesn't want to be married to, but she's miserable, versus being unmarried and sinful, you know what I mean? Then it's better for her to be miserable, married and miserable. So can we take this section again next week? I want to start the divorce section from the top next week, inshallah. So what about in case of domestic violence? I haven't learned some details about this, but the most I can say is that she's not obligated to stay in the house to be tortured. And if there were a Muslim judge, she can take him to the judge. But if there's not a Muslim judge, and he supports her, if he does beat her unjustly, but he supports her, is this a reason to ask for a divorce? I have not learned. So I don't know. Question. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. According to Imam Malik, is the person allowed to pray with najis? Pray if their clothes got wet and is najis? According to Imam Malik, is the person that's allowed to pray with najis? Could he pray if his clothes got wet and has najis? Yeah. Maybe I didn't understand your question. Question. Does the condition of divorce depend on the husband's intention? Sometimes. Depends on the condition. Fundamentally, no. Fundamentally, no. It's only going to depend on the condition. It's going to depend on the condition, and the condition is going to be whatever he pronounced. When I say sometimes, I mean what he intended by his condition sometimes matters. Like if he said to her, if you leave the house, you're divorced. He could mean, for example, like there's context here. They're arguing right now, and she wants to leave the house now. And he's talking about right now, not always, absolutely. He's saying, no, you're going to stay here and finish this conversation with me. If you leave, you're divorced. He didn't mean ever, so then it's not ever. He said, I heard that if one hits his wife, would that be a case of breaking the contract? This statement is not coherent for me. It sounds like you're telling me something you heard, but it ends up like it's a question. It starts off, you're telling me something, but it ends off, you're asking me something. I heard that if one hits his wife, would that be a case of breaking the contract? So if you want, you can fix that statement. You said, is the person allowed to pray if that najis is wet, or does it have to be dry? Well, I didn't learn Maliki school in detail. So if there were a difference here, I didn't learn it. The way I know the Maliki school is that the prayer is going to be valid with najis. So if that absolute statement is not true, then what I learned is incomplete, and I don't know more. Ameen wa fikum. So you fixed it. You said, I heard that if one hits his wife unjustly, that could be a case of breaking the contract. I don't know. I haven't heard about it. Question, does it count as a divorce if the husband says, I divorce you 3 times at once? Does it count for all 3 divorces, even if that's not what he intended? He understood that by saying it 3 times confirmed the divorce. Yani, so you're saying a person said, I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you, like this. And his understanding is that he's divorcing her once. Then this is one divorce. Ameen wa fiq. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Question. If one has a urinary issue where they can't hold urine after urination, can one sit and pray in order to not pee during salat? Uh, no. Rather, this is a case of a person with incontinence. So you see, just has the rules of incontinence only. This goes back to basic rules of incontinence. As for sitting for the obligatory prayer, this is not valid for the one who's able to stand. Then what should he do? He should just do the rules of the one who has incontinence, which is, first of all, he has to confirm that it's a case of incontinence. Like even this question you have here doesn't necessarily mean this person has incontinence. Because incontinence, to be incontinence needs certain frequency of leakage. Person has leakage problem, can't hold it in. Whether that's urine, whether that's gas, whether that's blood, in the case of woman with sickness bleeding, that's all incontinence. So what does the person do? Person waits for the prayer time to come in, then makes istinja, then puts something on the organ to block the body and clothing from contamination. So that means not just, for example, just put his underwears back on. No, there needs to be something there. Something that blocks the body and clothing from contamination. And then this person completes his purification, wudu, for example, or tayammum, for example. And then prays immediately. That's the rule for an obligatory prayer. So even if there's urine that comes out, yeah, that's what I'm saying to you. I said to you, in case of leakage, so that means urine that comes out. Even if it were gas, even if it were blood. Well, I didn't mention the frequency. I meant to mention the frequency. Has to have frequency. How frequent? So frequent that the person is unable to perform purification and prayer without leakage. If a person can perform a purification and prayer without leakage, then this person is not counted as having incontinence. He might medically have an incontinence, but here, legally, for his prayer, he does not have incontinence. If he is able to, he can achieve a purification. If he can achieve a purification and prayer without leakage, then this person is not counted as having incontinence. So I was told differently, but an imam that I was allowed to pray in order to stop the urine. You're allowed to pray in order to stop the urine. Sit to pray in order to stop the urine? No, because you have another course of action for that. It's not sitting. It's doing what I mentioned to you. So let me repeat for you. This type of person called salis, 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 seen lamb seen. Salis means a person who has incontinence. He's a person who has salas, salas, incontinence. What's the salas? I'm calling it leakage because something's going to come out. Can't stop it from getting out. You have leakage. A person has a leakage problem. What leakage? Could be from the front, could be from the back. Can't hold it in. So that's exactly what you are asking me. What I'm telling you is the rule for exactly what you are asking me. What you are asking me has a rule. Not sitting. That's not the rule for it. You're asking me about a person who has a leakage problem. The one who has leakage problem, he does like I'm saying to you now. What does he do? In order to pray, he must wait for the prayer time to come in. Then, after he's confident or he knows that the prayer time came in, then this person has to make istinja, meaning has to clear the najasa from himself. That's one. And number two, must put something on his private part to block the leakage from contaminating his body and clothing. For example, a woman would put a pad there. Yani a man maybe is going to put a sock, for example, something that blocks the leakage from contaminating his body and clothing. This is what you do, not sit down. Put something, not sock per se, it's just only an example. Uh, so you put something, make istinjat, number one. Number two, put something that blocks the urine, the filth from contaminating the body and clothing. Number three, complete your purification, meaning do your wudu if that's what you needed to do your tayammum if that's what you needed to do, or etc. Uh, then cover yourself also for your prayer and pray immediately. That's what you do. So then, You have a question just to be sure for yourself, extra sure. Even if the urine is still coming out? So the answer is yes. That's why you went through all of that. Because you have a leakage problem here. That's why you need to pray immediately. No, you don't have to make up the prayer. This is called taharatu darura, emergency purification. Emergency purification. The one sat down for, yeah. If you prayed obligatory prayer sitting while you're able to stand, then that's not valid. With this purification that I just told you, a person can do one obligation, but unlimited voluntary good deeds or voluntary deeds. One obligation, but unlimited voluntary deeds. So, according to what I'm telling you, one obligation. This purification I told you is good for one obligation. So let's say, for example, you wanted to make up the prayers that you missed for sitting down. And let's say there's a number of them. And let's say you are that person, Yani, according to what you're asking me, you are saying, this is your case. So a person with incontinence wants to pray several obligatory prayers in a row to make them up. Then he has to do this process for every single one of them. This means, let's say he had to do a whole day's worth, 5 of them. So this means, before he prays Fajr, he's going to go make istinja, put something to block the contamination, finish his purification, put his clothes on, pray immediately. Then he wants to pray, make up Dhuhr. So he's going to go do that again right now before he prays Dhuhr. Go make istinja anyway. Not khalas. This is the rule here. Go make istinja. Put something. Yani, throw the old one away or wash it, rinse it. Put something to block the contamination. Finish your purification. Cover yourself. Pray immediately. Now you want to make up Asr. Go do the whole process over again. Now you want to pray Maghrib. Do the whole process over again. That's what you have to do for leakage problem. Incontinence. You can follow up if you want to. You're welcome. So to be clear for you also, when I say unlimited optional things, unlimited voluntary things, what that means, it means you want to recite the Quran, you want to hold the Quran, you want to pray Sunnah prayers, you don't have to keep repeating that process. You can just keep praying. Keep praying your Sunnah prayers. Do all your Sunnah prayers with the same wudu, even with your leakage problem. As long as you don't do a different invalidator other than the leakage problem, you're good. Your leakage problem is now as if you don't have a leakage problem. Yeah, you're going to ignore it. You're not going to count that as an invalidator for yourself until you're ready to do another obligation. Then you're going to say, I need to do the whole process over again. So, inshallah, that's clear for you. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك